Hey, Liam Ward here at LearnTheHarmonica.com. We are in a very windy London and I'm going to visit Ed at the Harmonica Barge. Ed, thanks for having me on the Harmonica Barge.
You are most welcome. Thanks for coming.
Nice to be here, muddy waters.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
The wind's blowing. We're rocking a little bit, aren't we?
It's a little bit. You've definitely come on the windiest day today. You chose the windiest day.
Yeah, windy day in London. So, I want to ask you kind of about your harmonica playing, because you started out as a drummer, or you're a drummer first. Would you still say?
Yeah, maybe I just consider myself a harmonica player now. After all these years.
Yeah, okay.
I've perhaps just transferred over enough. Yeah, I started on drums when I was about 10,
mm-hmm.
and then played in a whole bunch of bands, and just gradually got more and more into harp and guitar as well, but mostly harp.
So how do you think that affects your harmonica playing then?
I guess I definitely think from a rhythmic perspective that's coming at the forefront, and I sort of feel with music, like my whole approach to music and groove, it's almost like people have an internal sense of groove that's almost separate from the music. I mean, maybe not calling it separate is the right thing, but you've got a groove and that'll just come through in whatever instrument I play. Yeah. So that's definitely the primary thing.
Yeah.
And I guess that suits a kind of maybe a sort of simpler style of playing harp, and definitely with tongue block stuff.
Yeah.
You know, with sort of slaps and that can be very rhythmic.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a lot of that.
I've heard some of your stuff. Yeah, you're playing a lot of the kind of some quite kind of busy and fast sort of rhythms down the bottom end with, you know, the chordal stuff and the chugging as well. Yeah, I really like that stuff. That's really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And like interesting time signatures and stuff as well. Obviously, because you know what you're doing. With
a little bit, just something that I've started to dabble with.
Yeah.
Like working in 7 and 5, and just sort of experimenting with rhythms.
So what, like 7/8?
7/8's one that I really like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you give a little demo so?
Sure.
So we can kind of hear.
I could try.
I'll try and count it in my head as we go.
So there's a little thing that I've been working on recently with the band.
Yeah.
So it goes. It's a bit like a kind of Bo Diddley groove, but then I've moved it to 7. So, it's not very danceable, I don't know.
It hurts my head a bit. I love it. Do you count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or do you count 7? Or
in that one I'm doing a 4 and a 3.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Just to break it down like that.
Yeah. I couldn't even count that. I'm just going, no, my head hurts. It needs to be 4s or 3s or something.
Yeah. That one's a project, so we haven't gigged it with the band yet, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. I love it though. There's a certain... Harmonica's a funny thing, isn't it? That it sort of does lots of things not very well. Like there's bits of the instrument that play certain things well and other things, you know, less well. But one of the things it does seem to do really well is that like there's a vibrancy and a life and an energy to that sort of, like it gets you going, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I love it. I just love the sound of chords.
Yeah.
And mixing chords and single notes like that.
Yeah. I loved I'm sure it was one of your videos I heard where you were using, I can't remember if it was a like Cajun Zydeco thing or something, and you were using that kind of that interval, like the 4. What is it? The 4 and the 7? Is it
4 and 7?
I don't know what it was you were playing, but like that sort of thing.
Yeah, it starts on the 4 and 7.
And I love that, because again, like you don't hear it in blues certainly, and it immediately suggests a style and a place and a time in history almost. Like, I love that.
When I found that interval, it was sort of like, oh yeah, eureka moment.
I
just love the sound of that.
Yeah.
And that kind of Zydeco groove.
Yeah. Because you're almost starting to hear an accordion, aren't you?
Yeah.
When you hear that, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
kind of how did you get into all that, the old time stuff, or Cajun Zydeco, that old jug band stuff?
Well, I guess for the Cajun and Zydeco, that came quite early because my dad was playing in a British Cajun band called All Cajun and the Zydeco Brothers. They were sort of like the first, maybe they weren't the very first, but they were the most popular Cajun band in the UK for what that was at the time. And they had a bit of a dance scene going in the Midlands, so they ran a club, and they were also getting Cajun bands over from Louisiana, and doing regular events. So Dad was with those, I think, for about 15 years. So I just grew up listening to a lot of Cajun and Zydeco. But I must confess, I haven't really learnt like lots of tunes, so I couldn't play loads of Cajun tunes. But I've just sort of grown up with the style, and then taken those kind of stylistic elements with the splits. Obviously, I'm into my blues and more rhythmic stuff, so kind of mixing up those elements. In terms of the old time, I really got into that from getting into bluegrass guitar, really, and going to bluegrass sessions around London, and then realising there's also an old-timey scene of a lot of fiddle players and banjo players, and started to try and learn some tunes and dabble with harmonica, which is kind of quite a niche market. I mean, it's no, I don't know, you know yourself, you play jug band music, but you don't meet that many harmonica players who are into jug band music.
Not really.
And old-timey stuff. So there's not many of us about.
It's great fun though, isn't it? Like I love blues music, and that's kind of my first thing. But there's so many great songs, you know, with kind of the Memphis Jug Band, and like songs people don't play anymore. Like, people should play these. They're great fun. And fun and funny songs as well. It kind of opens up a new area for the harp, and also the melodies really fit nicely on the harp, don't they? Like, and again, combining the rhythm and the single notes and all that. So what your YouTube channel, Harmonica Barge, what's your when you're teaching stuff, are you mainly teaching kind of old tunes, or is it just the technique side of it, the rhythmic elements? Like what's your approach?
So I do tend to teach a few tunes, but it's often my transcription of the tune and sort of how a groove of how I've got into playing it over the years at sessions, kind of, rather than taking one, say, harmonica player and really transcribing it note for note. Although I do think there's a lot of value in that, and I've definitely done that a bit, but I'll usually transcribe a basic version of something and try and pick out what I think are kind of the key elements. And then I sort of like to go off on my own with it a bit and say, well, how can we use this to improvise with or create around it? So I kind of use that more as a vehicle. Start getting creative with it. Yeah, definitely.
Do you kind of know a lot of bluegrass tunes? I don't really know much about bluegrass.
Yeah, so again, that's something that I got into through playing at sessions, and then I realised the difference between old time and bluegrass, which is often quite subtle, because they both come from a similar repertoire of music. It's all sort of coming from what the record label called old-timey music, which was a mix of hillbilly music and blues and all kinds of stuff. But I guess with bluegrass, that was like, how can we put this on a stage and present it as a show with 4 or 5 musicians all taking solos? So there's a lot of similarities there with jazz and blues, that essentially the bluegrassers are taking a form and then soloing over it, often with really virtuosic playing, which I can't necessarily do myself, but I can get to a certain speed. If it gets like really fast, the bluegrassers can play super quick. And actually a lot of the harmonica, for me, that's an ongoing exploration. So the players who play very cleanly, I really appreciate that kind of style as well, even though it's not really my go-to thing. But I'm sort of getting into that more and more.
Is harmonica accepted in like bluegrass sessions and stuff?
That's a tricky question. I would say like in London it's pretty much okay, but I've been to festivals over here where certainly in a group, if you go over with a harp, if you don't ease in gently,
they flinch.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen people just like stop playing as well. just actually stop. But maybe there was a washboard there as well.
Yeah.
You know, like someone banging a tambourine could ruin a session.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all that. The fast stuff that, like as you say, clean kind of melodic stuff, but rhythmic as well. I mean, and when you get to the Appalachian tunes and all that, have you got the Mark Graham album?
Just sort of discovered him. Southern old time.
Yeah.
Really.
Because I used to do Hoof and Mouth off that one.
Oh, okay.
You know, that kind of style thing, and then it's got a little like a hollery bit, you know, where he's kind of like doing almost like the Sonny Terry kind of hoofing the blues sort of thing, you know, in it. But there's some amazing tunes on that album.
I think he's got a very unique style as well, in a way that he has elements of that sort of cleaner bluegrass style, I guess, going on Charlie McCoy and people like that. But he's also hinting at chords and putting in rhythmic stuff without getting really into the sort of tongue block traditional approach. So he's a player whose style I'd like to get into a lot more. For sure.
Grant Dermody's another player in terms of more broadly, just, you know, he plays a lot of different styles, but he's got that lovely feel to what he's playing, and on the slower tunes as well, just really nice tone.
Amazing tone and very rhythmic as well.
Yeah, really great player. So in terms of your harps, are you always playing standard Richter tuning? Do you ever play country tuning or anything? Or?
I'm pretty boring, I'm afraid. I'm still in standard mode. I do have a country tuned harp, and I sort of tried it one day and was like, I'm going to have to get into this. And just, you know, as I keep digging back into older recordings, I just keep discovering more and more stuff. That's in kind of Richter tuning. I just don't feel there's enough kind of time to get into other tunings. So you know, I've got a few minor tuned harps as well, which are always fun. But Richter's definitely my go-to.
Yeah, and you can do so much in the, you know, using the major scale or the major pentatonic in second position, not necessarily needing that like major seventh on the 5 draw. You can still move up, I think, pretty fluidly and make it sound great. And like you say, if there's recordings out there of people making it sound great, it can be done.
But I've heard that used really well, and for jazz tunes as well. So, you know, maybe next year.
How about I think you've said before you sometimes do a one-man band thing, do you?
So I've got a one-man band show where I play a suitcase drum, guitar and harp, and then left foot tambourine, cowbell on the left foot as well occasionally.
Cool.
So that's with my own material. That I write.
In the kind of what old-timey style, or like
there's strong elements of blues, gospel and zydeco. So that's definitely coming through those kind of American root styles.
Amazing.
Sure.
Could you maybe play something? Play a favourite tune or something?
Oh yeah, sure.
That'd be cool.
I'll do this one. This one's one of mine called Hammond's Place, which I ended up using as the outro music on my YouTube channel.
Cool.
I'm going on down Hammond's Place, all a good thing to fill my page.
Hey.
Shortened version for you.
Beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
There's something really, I don't know, just really satisfying about harp and voice like that, you know, like it's just so, I don't know, I can't think of the words right now, but there's something.
And I love the players who, you know, people like Pegleg Sam, who was sort of playing chordy groove stuff and then singing in between.
Yeah.
You know, I really like that part of harmonica.
Yeah. Do you still are you listening to a lot of harmonica players and music, or?
I have phases, you know. So I would say that I love music first and foremost, and harmonica comes second. So I won't really buy an album. Well, maybe. If it's a player that I really like, I perhaps would buy a harmonica album. But otherwise, it's all about the music. If I like the music, if there's great harping, that's a bonus. You know, but I'll sort of have like geeky phases where I'm listening to harp playlists, and then other times where I might just want to lean into other styles. And almost be trying to avoid harmonica for a few months. Which is quite hard when you teach it.
Yeah. Can we not talk about harmonica in today's harmonica lesson?
But then what normally happens is I'll be on Spotify or YouTube, and then some great old recording will come on, like J. Bird Coleman, and then I go, I want to learn that. So then it starts the phase again.
In terms of one of your bands, the Rigmarollers, you've got a relatively recent album out. What's the selection process on there? Is it originals? Are there old tunes on there as well?
So on the album, our first album that we made, well, our only album, we're making another one at the moment. That's all covers of old songs, which is pretty much a collaborative effort. So Julian, the fiddle player, will bring a few tunes that he's working on, and Ewan on sousaphone. He had a few sort of like more on the jug band kind of Hoke and blues suggestions. And then obviously I'll bring a few harmonica tunes as well. So it's quite a collaborative effort. And it's mostly obscure stuff from the 20s and 30s that no one's heard of. It does see, you know, we're playing at the moment to younger crowds and festivals, and it's amazing, like a 100-year-old jug band song can go down really well with a younger crowd in their 20s. So there must be something good about those old songs.
I've found with my jug band that the more you search for songs from the 20s and 30s, the more amazing songs come out. You're like, you find a song and you think, I don't know anyone who plays this tune anymore, and why? It's amazing, you know.
It just seems like there's a never-ending supply of great songs.
There's a playfulness. I mean, like we often open the set with "I Can't Dance, I've Got Ants in My Pants." It's like, well, why is no one playing "I Can't Dance, I've Got Ants in My Pants"? You know, it's just like that needs to be played.
People need to hear this stuff, right?
They do. We're all missing out. We're all malnourished when it comes to this stuff. I can see just out of shot a gold harmonica. What's going on there?
Oh right, actually, this thing it's a real kind of cheap thing.
Oh, is it? I
It
thought
says
it might
Victorian
be
on it. I can't remember where I got it from. Clark Victorian. Yeah, definitely on the. It's reached the ornament status.
Yeah, and I think I can see
full of dust.
A jaw harp as well. Is that it? Can you play it?
Oh yeah, well actually, I'm only dabbling. I'm pretty new to it, I have to say. Not quite there yet.
Nice.
Hopefully that's going to find its way onto the next album.
So what kind of breathing are you doing when you play it?
It's a little sort of gentle out breath.
Okay.
Really, and you can breathe in or out, and everything like mouth shape kind of changes the tone. There is something called hillbilly jaw harp, which I discovered on YouTube. Went down a YouTube rabbit hole where you kind of make these noises in your throat and almost make these rhythms.
Cool.
But yeah, that was something to get into for the future.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got one in a box somewhere.
Like 15 quid that was.
Yeah.
And it plays really nicely.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to dig mine out and give it a go, because I've heard it played, and it always. You know, I've always enjoyed the sound of it. I don't know what I'd use it in, but that doesn't matter. That's a secondary thought.
Like old-timey stuff with a straight groove. I think, but then you've got to play it right into the microphone.
Okay, yeah.
This one's kind of unplayable.
Okay.
An ornament.
Yeah, amazing sound. So you play a few different things then. You've got all these different kind of rhythmic-y things.
Yeah, I keep collecting old junk all the time and adding stuff. The washboard's great because it's kind of like a drum kit reduced.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my cymbal on there.
Yeah.
And then novelty items as well. And I can, playing that with the brushes.
Yeah.
Is is quite a nice thing.
Yeah.
So I quite like that sort of groove, you know, for like country songs. And it's a bit more forgiving than the thimbles.
Okay.
You know, when you play with thimbles.
Yeah.
There's you play a bit yourself, you know, I'm sure you.
Well, I don't. I'm not a trained percussionist as you are.
Well,
but
I
hit
I've
it.
I've never had a washboard lesson.
I can
Only
hit
from
it.
YouTube.
Do you want to have a little play and I'll jam something along to it?
Sure, yeah. Blue shuffle maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's great to hear this style of playing because I love it, and it's one of those things. Until I hear it, I kind of forget it's out there because I'm just playing so much blues and listening to so much blues.
Yeah,
it's the same like I was saying earlier that I went to see Brendan Power the other day. And I hear him playing Irish stuff, and I'm like, I want to play this.
Yeah.
It's like beautiful.
Me too. And then I might have like half a day, and then it's we don't spend enough time on it.
Yeah,
the Irish stuff's phenomenal. Isn't it?
And he does it so well and like so creatively. But there's a lot. I feel like there's similar to the stuff you play. It sits nicely on the harmonica. Like again, with Irish music, like you were saying with bluegrass. Sometimes you go to an Irish session and the harmonica is like, hang on, that's not an instrument for this style of music, but actually fits so well, you know. And there are other instruments that have a similar, you know, tuning essentially that are accepted, and then it really fits.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Yeah, it's really nice. So what's the future for you and for your bands, and what you're kind of working on at the minute then?
So we're actually with the Rigmarolders. We're working on a new album and going for more original stuff. So I've actually been playing some of my songs and gigging them. They've been going down well. So we're gonna record a bunch of original stuff. Nice. Maybe it'll be 100% original.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've also picked up a few sort of new songs to the set, which are old jug band songs.
Yeah.
So that's ticking over, and then constantly writing at the moment. So few solo gigs coming up. Obviously with lockdown there wasn't many gigs happening, so happy everything's gradually getting going again.
Yeah.
So more writing and recording.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, best of luck.
Cheers. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Thanks very much.
Hopefully it won't be so windy next time.
Yeah. Ha ha ha!